difficult parent, may not even be a narcissist. Maybe it's an addicted parent.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay, so in that kind of situation, and the same thing happens with a narcissist or an angry parent, in order for the family members to keep a sense of stability, they have to all take on a role. So there's going to be
Mm,
the peacemaker. Usually,
right.
a lot of times the peacemaker is the other parent. So,
Okay.
but if
Okay.
there's that's not happening, then or it could actually, if it's a big enough family, it could actually be more than one peacemaker, depending on
Mm.
what the scenario is. So you got the peacemaker, you got the clown, the one that has to make jokes all the time because there's tension, a
Mm.
lot of tension usually.
Have you ever found yourself feeling like, am I going out of my mind here or what? My name is Tyler and this is Karen, and we are the Narcissist Asking for a Friend podcast. And today we're going to go over a topic that is just really, I find it's controversial because a lot of people are going through this and they don't even know it, right, Karen? That they are with someone in a relationship and they just feel like they're just constantly questioning their reality, constantly questioning what's going on in their life. I know personally myself, I've been in that situation where you're just, I'm just like thinking in my mind, did I really say that, or did that really happen? And it gets to a point where when you're in a relationship like that, and this is what and this could be with a significant other, a spouse, a parent-child relationship, with a friend, whoever that you're close to in your life, and they're just constantly trying to make you question, what's real and what's not, and did a conversation happen or did it not happen? Or like, let's say it could be something as simple as something was in the house and it was in one place, and then they're like, well, it wasn't there, keys weren't there, I didn't do that, I didn't move that. And that could have very well been something that they did, but they're going to make you believe or blame you for something that you didn't even do. And when you're going through this over and over again, Karen, what have you found with your clients in the past? What does this do to them? I mean, this is what we call gaslighting, right? Gaslighting is what it is. Where did this term come from? How do you see this? Like, how has this affected your clients?
Well, it makes them question their sanity. And actually, the term gaslighting actually came from a movie back in 1944. It's Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman. I mean, those that are young are probably not going to have any idea who those two actors are.
Right.
But they portrayed a couple, and he would make her question her sanity, basically. And she would remind him of things that would happen in the past. And she would say, in one case, it was, this letter that I showed you, and I told you it said this and this. And then he said, oh dear, yeah, I remember the letter that you were telling me what it contained. And when I looked at it, it was actually an empty piece of paper. So
Oh,
he made her actually question something that she didn't have proof. She couldn't bring the proof forward and say, here it is. What are you talking about? It says this. She didn't
right.
have it any longer to prove that she was making a point of truth. And so he was trying to get her to think that she was crazy. And then she had also told him about when she was younger and growing up and her relationship with her mother and all of that. And then he said to her, well, I've checked into all of that, and your mother actually was insane. And she started to
Mm.
believe things that were not real. And so what he was trying to get her to do is to think that she was also doing the same thing that her mother did. And so,
Wow.
of course, that's an extreme story. And he
Right.
isolated her. He did not want her to make friends. He didn't want her to meet people. And so he
Mm.
tried to make her think he was doing it because he was good-hearted and wanted to protect her from people knowing the struggle that she was having. And so,
Wow.
and he would put pictures on the wall, and then she'd say, oh, where'd that picture come from? And he'd be like, that's the same picture that's been there for years. What's wrong with you? So
Wow.
person that can make you really question reality, and it may not be that extreme. It might be more that you had a conversation yesterday and
Mhm.
specifically said this, and this to this person. And then the next day comes and that person maybe had something they were supposed to do about what you said and they didn't do it. And so
Like
instead
pay
of
a bill or something. Could be like paying a bill or
anything, yeah,
picking something up at the doctor's office
or at the
or
store, exactly. You never
Mhm.
said that. You never told me that. I did, I told you that. And then, so it's kind of like things that happen that make the person this is being done to feel like, I wish I had a video camera every single time
Mm.
that we talked, because I wish I could play it back for him, or I wish I could play it back for her, because this is exactly what was said. This is exactly how it went down. You agreed, and now you're saying that it never happened. So it's always this thing where they're wanting you to question your own reality, like you're the crazy one, I'm not. And do they believe their lies? Oftentimes they do believe their lies.
Right.
So, is it that they're trying to make you think you're crazy? Or is it that because the narcissist doesn't like to take ownership of their mistakes, they're trying to have you doubt your reality is right, because they don't want to own up that they forgot to stop at the store, or they neglected to go to the doctor and pick up medication, or they, whatever it is that they were supposed to do, they didn't do it, but they're not going to say they're sorry. They're not going
Right.
to even own up that they did anything wrong. No, you just are the crazy one and you're remembering everything the wrong way.
Wow. I can think of a situation that, someone, you're looking at something and, I'm looking at something and I almost trip over something that someone left on the floor or right in front of me. And then they're saying to me like, well, that's your fault. But I said, well, how could it be my fault if what was placed in front of me was not there before and you placed it there in the midst of me walking so that I can trip over it. So is that one of those things where instead of just most normal people would just apologize, oh, I'm so sorry I left that there, and
Yeah.
then you ended up tripping over it. The narcissist would just say, well, that's your fault. You should have seen that there. You should have known that that was there, even though you weren't even paying attention in that direction because you were focused somewhere else. So
Right.
it's could it be something just as small as that to maybe something as big as, maybe there was I don't know, maybe someone that needed to be picked up. I'm just trying to give a situation where maybe you have a family member coming in town or a friend, and there was an agreement. Someone's going to pick them up from the airport. And then it comes to that time, the person's calling saying, hey, where's so and so? No one's here to pick me up. Why aren't you here? Or so and so. And then you call and maybe, call them out on it. And then they look at you and say, what are you talking about? You were the one that was supposed to do it. But you know for a fact that you agreed that they were going to do it because of whatever reason. And
Yes.
is it just kind of just what is the I know you said that they don't want to take accountability. So would you say that this is a calculated move on their part
It
to
it can be.
yeah.
For some, it would be, I don't like being asked to do things like that. I'm
Mm.
not your puppet that you get to do whatever you want. You asked me
Right.
to do it, I don't like doing that kind of stuff. You asked me, so I'm not gonna say no. I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'll do it. And then when it comes time for it to happen, it's not gonna get done. You won't ask me anymore because you can't depend on me then. And then I don't have to do it. So you're not gonna ask me.
Wow. So that does sound kind of calculated in a way because it's like I will just agree with you just to kind of, basically shut you up and get you to move on. And then
Right,
you'll think about it, you'll go about your day, and then I'll just conveniently act like that didn't happen. You didn't ask me that, or you were gonna do that, you remember.
right.
So it's one of those things where if they do something enough to make you doubt their reliability,
Yeah,
then it's their way of instead of telling you no, they're going to get you on your own to stop asking them for things or to stop relying on them.
right. If you can depend on them to be not dependable, that's where they want
Right.
you to get, so then you won't ask them for stuff. So they don't have to do anything.
Mm.
But don't you do that same thing to them.
Right. Because I was going to say, what happens if you were to, flip the script on them and you're not intentionally gaslighting? You're just like,
You
you
forgot.
know, yeah, you forgot. So how do they take it? How do they respond
Oh,
to you?
oh, then you get a lecture. Then you're in
Mm.
trouble. And they don't mind kicking you under the bus in front of people. Like, I'm so sorry that she forgot you. I would never have done that. I feel so bad that that happened. So it's always, to make themselves sound great, make the other person sound
Right.
bad, and always be putting themselves in a good light and themselves. And so it's in that situation where it was really their job to go do the pickup from the airport, let's say, they would come back and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that you didn't get picked up, but she thinks that we had a conversation, and I tell you right now, we never had that conversation. And so it would be, something to make themselves feel good about it, never having to apologize and be like, oh, sorry that happened to you, but I'm sorry I made it happen to you.
Right. Wow. So they're really good at just kind of just deflecting, not taking any responsibility, not owning anything. And when this happens, so they're in this situation, they are not afraid to throw you under the bus. But what would happen if, let's say, the person on the other side decided to say to that person, hey, I don't know why he did that. He didn't pick you up. We had an agreement, and then it gets back to him or the narcissist, whoever, that you basically spilled the beans on the fact that, he dropped the ball.
Oh yeah, then you'd be in trouble. Yeah, because remember now it's the image that they're trying to portray
Mhm.
perfection. And so,
Right.
wait a second. Don't you ever say something like then it's a lecture. Don't you ever
Right.
paint me in a bad light, and talking about even people using scripture to
Oh,
say
wow.
love always protects. You're supposed to protect my reputation with people, and you just made her think that I'm a louse, and how could you ever do this? So
Right.
it's lectures, it's
Right.
constant berating one's decision making. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to have to navigate through for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to always remember, as we're talking about these subjects, we do come from a Christian perspective. So we want to make sure we're not bashing, but we're trying to help you to understand what kind of things can happen and develop when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, how to protect yourself to heal from it. And if you stay in a relationship, or if you have to, how you need to navigate through those relationships to protect your own mental health, right? And emotional health.
Yes.
So it's interesting because with this type of gaslighting that's happening now, if you're in a relationship with someone and let's say you have children, how does that affect the children when they're witnessing this happening over time?
Well, for some of the kids, they may feel like a protective, or even they might be trying to be the peacemaker, and they might think
Mm.
that they're helping the situation. Let's just say that they were there when that conversation happened with the decision
Right,
making for the airport pickup, right?
right,
And let's just say that, little Susie heard it, and now dad is saying, you never said that. And she said, oh, I heard you, daddy, you said it.
right.
And then he could become very angry at her because now she's
Mm.
not letting him stay in his own reality. Now
Right,
there's actually someone else there bolstering your opinion, the
right,
wife's opinion in this situation. And so, if she chimes in and tries to be protective because she's just trying to establish peace, in her
right,
mind, she's thinking, oh, he must have forgotten. I'm just going to help him remember. But you did, Daddy. You said that.
right,
And, he's going to be angry. But in her mind, her little mind, she's just thinking, I'm going to help everybody understand and remember what just really happened.
right.
But he'll have to make sure that he laces into her as well, because she needs to know never to do that again. Don't ever stick up for
Mm.
mommy when I'm arguing with her. So
Oh,
it's kind of like where the family learns to walk on eggshells, and it's by situation after situation that they grow into being just really careful around the elephant in the room. The narcissist is the elephant in the room. Nobody can
right.
make waves, nobody can say anything about that person. And so the
Mhm.
other people in the family have to actually take on different roles. For some, it will be okay. if you think about a big family where there's a difficult parent, may not even be a narcissist, maybe it's an addicted parent.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay, so in that kind of situation, and the same thing happens with a narcissist or an angry parent, in order for the family members to keep a sense of stability, they have to all take on a role. So there's going to be
Mm,
the peacemaker. Usually,
right.
a lot of times the peacemaker is the other parent. So,
Okay.
but if
Okay.
there's that's not happening, then or it could actually, if it's a big enough family, it could actually be more than one peacemaker, depending on
Mm,
what the scenario is. So you got the peacemaker, you got the clown, the one that has to make jokes all the time because there's tension, a
mm.
lot of tension usually. And so they use
Wow.
humor to try to bring a little bit of lightness to the atmosphere.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Usually there'll also be one that is somewhat depressed or anxious.
Mm,
That might be the one that actually has to go for counseling because of either behavior, maybe bad grades or whatever. They're struggling in life. They're the one that actually carries the pain of the family. So
right.
that one. And then there may be one that's a lot like the narcissist, one that's starting,
Mm,
okay, those behaviors that are working for him or her, they're going to start working for me too, because I see how this goes. So, and then there can be other, different things. And a lot of times in that kind of a family situation, the youngest one often is the one that's forgotten. They
right.
may go, be quiet and just kind of, not be noticed much because they're the little cute one.
Right.
Everybody's, you know, good and kind and sweet to that one because they're cute and little. But then as they
Right.
grow and then other ones marry off, then that role, could change then. That role then could become that's the one that's going to be maybe somehow um the peacemaker or the clown, so roles
Right.
can change as the family grows and changes too. So
Wow. Yeah. As the family grows, or as people get, the kids get older, they go out to college, they leave the home, they marry off, and the kids that are left behind now have to shift roles, right?
yes.
Wow. So that is interesting. So and have you ever seen a case where maybe a child has had to adopt more than one role? Like maybe that they are the peacemaker and they're the person that is suffering with the depression and the weight of it all at the same time. Can that happen as well?
Yes, yes, and the smaller the family, the more likely that that will happen. So if there are more
Mm.
members, then everybody kind of shares the burden. The more to share the burden, the easier load it is on each person. But when it's just a few people, it's on everyone in a stronger way. So yeah.
Wow. And then it's almost like when you're dealing with a person that's really difficult like that. Um, what happens when you're dealing with that for so long, because I don't know, maybe you've seen it in relationships, and the children are now aged out, they have left the home, or maybe they're about to get to that age where they're about to be 18, go to college, whatever they're going to do with their life, work or do their career. What happens to that couple? So does that gaslighting dynamic, does it get worse? Does it, like, what happens? Like does it get even worse? Like, you thought it was bad when we had the kids. Now that the kids are off and they're going off on their own, like, wow, now we're really seeing a whole different side. What happens in that dynamic?
It can happen that way where it gets worse, especially because there's less people in the house, so it's more on the one person that's with the spouse that's been the gaslighter. Um, it just depends really on what does that person that is the narcissist do with their life? Do they, are they really busy with their friends golfing and are they
Mhm.
retired and they don't really spend a lot of time at home anyway. So maybe it's becoming more peaceful for her because she's finally got the house to herself a lot and he's off and running or she's, off playing pickleball. And here in Florida, there's a lot of pickleball. So let's just say pickleball.
Yeah.
And he's, home taking care of things, for himself and the household, or maybe even they have maybe some grandchildren. So maybe he's helping with watching the grandkids, and the wife is off having a grand old time. And so it could get worse though if you know, there's just more time for them to argue, because when they are home together, you know, a lot of times these quirky things that people have going on can get worse with age, right? So that
Right.
part of it. And then it could also be that this person that's been dealing with this for so long kept quiet a lot because they were keeping silent for the children's sake, but now
Right.
they feel like they can stick up for themselves. And so now they're starting to get a little bit more outspoken about how they feel and what they think about this other person's behaviors. And maybe they're just tired of it. And, you know, maybe they're saying, you know, this last part of my life, I don't want to be doing what I've been doing. And so they may just be putting their foot down. And in some cases, when a person does put their foot down, if the narcissist realizes how much they do want their marriage, there could be some hope for change. I have heard
Mm.
of that. And so it just depends on how much the narcissist needs that person.
Mm. So it
But
becomes a need thing. So
there's a secondary gain for them to stay with this person. Let's just picture this. Let's say that it's a very, maybe it's a younger female married to an
Mhm.
older male narcissist, and he's
Right,
aging, he's getting sickly in his body.
right,
She's younger, and
right,
she is basically his caretaker, takes very good care of him, but
right,
becoming worse and worse, older and ornery and everything. And now she's, you know what? I've been putting up with this and I'm getting no appreciation. I don't have to do this anymore. And so you want to badger me all the time? I'll let you badger your nurse, because I'm not going to be your nurse. I'm gonna let you take.
right,
And I'm not necessarily saying that this guy is like in a sick bed. He might just be
right,
sitting in a recliner drinking a beer and watching TV all the time and still spouting off the rules and regulations to her. And she's
right,
tired of it. She doesn't want to do it anymore. And when he was a little bit more energetic, he, you know, kept busy and he wasn't in her hair and being mean all the time. But now, because he's home all the time and she has to be home to take care of him, feed him, do things because he's so needy, now she's putting her foot down and says, I'm not doing this anymore. And so now
wow,
he realizes that he's getting old. No one else is going to want him. So I better be nice. There's a
right.
secondary gain here for me to be a little bit nicer. So it can be done. They can be nicer, but they might need a little help with that. They might need some therapy to become
Yeah, they need a little push.
a
So it
little more.
almost sounds like if the person that's, the targeted person, the person that's suffering from all this, abuse, if they could in their mind, because that sounds like almost like a mindset shift has to happen, because you have to get to a point where you start to not believe the gaslighting and all the manipulation and the lies. You start to get to a point where you get tired of it, and then you start to like know your worth, and understand that you have value, and
Yeah.
you don't have to put up with this anymore. It's almost like a few things like that have to happen in order for them to really get to a point to almost help the narcissist get into that state of changing the behavior, moving on, stopping the gaslighting, or minimizing it at least, helping them to become more aware.
Self-aware.
So
Yes.
yeah, to become more self-aware, because it's
Yes.
almost like they need help to become self-aware. They're just not going to do it on their own. So
Mhm.
what do you say for those people that feel like I just have to put up with it, because what else am I going to do? Because it's almost like they don't see their worth and their value. So what do you do when you're dealing with clients like that you can see like, wow, why are they putting up with it like this? Like you said, it's an older man, younger woman. She's
Mhm.
obviously able to take care of herself. She can do for herself, but then she feels like she has to, either by obligation, or that she feels like maybe this is her calling in life to put up with this and be with a person like that. What do you say to that person to help them understand, like, I mean, maybe if you were to help this along, maybe that person would change if you
Right.
would just kind of get a little more firm in your stance and kind
Yes.
of stand up for yourself. What do you
Right.
think of that?
Right. Well, it's about boundaries, you know.
Boundaries,
I
yes.
I have been tolerating this for, let's just say it's 25 years, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. You're either going to go get help, because I refuse to live like this. And if you don't get help and gain some self-awareness and learn how to apologize when it's necessary and be nice when it's necessary, which is always, you should be nice, then I think, you know, we're gonna have to separate until you can figure out how much you really want this marriage to be two people living in the same household, because I don't have to live with you. Now, that's the
Right.
other thing. A woman may feel stuck, or a man may feel stuck because there is a financial risk involved by separating. And that's a tricky one, because for a lot of people, that is the problem. A lot of younger people with children, you know, young women that have small
Mhm.
children, they won't leave the marriage because they're afraid that they're going to be left destitute, that the wealthy husband is going to take them to court and get every lawyer so that they lose custody of the children. And
Right.
speak in the world that we live in today. So, you know, it's a scary time for people. So they don't always have an easy out in that kind of situation.
Mm. Wow, that is an unfortunate situation because you're right. We do see that happen all the time. You will see the person that's the wealthier spouse, whether that's the male or the female. If they have the funds, they can get the lawyers, they can get the process going where the kids are with them, or they get all the assets, and maybe they're left with nothing.
Yeah,
So it's almost like I don't know, it sounds kind of scary, and listeners, I want y'all to chime in, give me your comments, your questions, because this
yeah,
can be a little scary, and I know that if you're in this situation, you may want to know and ask questions in regards to, what if I am so financially tied to this person, or this person has done so much to make it to the point where kind of their name is on everything, they own everything, they have the bank account, they have everything, and I really want to stand up for myself and have these boundaries, but there could be a cost to it in more ways than one.
right.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on this.
Yes.
And Karen, it's just so if they, let's say, for the person that does decide to finally put their foot down and say this is what is going to happen, what, like they're not going to put up with it, they need to have the boundaries, what would you say they should have prepared ahead of time before having these conversations, especially with a narcissist? You never know if it can go left, right, you never know where it can go. We just don't want to start having these conversations without a plan. So what would you say would be the best way if they do want to go this direction, have the boundaries, stand up for themselves? What are some things that they should consider prior to that?
They could consider going to see an attorney, and I'm not saying to file,
Right,
see an attorney to know what their rights are. So
right.
if there is going to be a separation, there probably needs to be some type of a separation agreement. So just to know what their
Mhm.
rights are, and their, you know, what's in place already by law that they
Mhm.
can know. Are they in a separation going to have any type of um, you know, support? You know, if they were
Right,
not the breadwinner and they were a stay-at-home, you know, mom or person, just a
right.
housewife, or house husband, whatever it might be, you know,
Mhm.
will there be some type of financial help that they can depend on if that's necessary? Maybe
Right,
it's not even a problem for them. Maybe they don't need it. They'll want to think about, you know, making sure that before they have that conversation with someone, that other people that they're close to, relatives, friends, know that they're going to have that conversation. There should be other people alerted, especially if you don't trust the person. And then
right.
if you don't trust the person to the point that you know in the past that they have been physical, then I would say you need to make sure that on the day of separation, you're not by yourself. You've got other people with you.
Yes, and that is a very that's another touchy subject there, because if there has been a physical abuse that's been going on, as far as with the gaslighting, the narcissism, all those things involved, um, what can you what can you do to kind of keep yourself safe? You said make sure that someone's present.
Mhm.
Um, maybe is it possible that they should have a place to go? Like if they know that this person may get so out of hand, do they need to already have like some kind of exit plan or strategy in place, just in case of the worst that may come the worst?
They should absolutely have a plan in place. There should be no doubt about that. A plan in place. Now, in some instances, if it is a situation where it's a family with children and the husband's the main breadwinner, maybe she's a stay-at-home mom, and maybe he's had an affair and she doesn't want him in the house anymore. Now, that gets tricky because he may want her to leave. I own this house. So that's why seeing a lawyer and knowing what her rights are is really
Yeah.
important. Is it that she gets out of the house to start with just to get away from him? Or is it that he is removed from the house and has to stay that way? So, yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, neither one of us are lawyers, and so we can't,
Right.
give any kind of legal help with any of this, but and everybody's situation, it can be so different, right? So definitely talking to someone, going for that advice. And scripture is very clear about having many advisors, right? So you want
Yes.
many advisors before you make any kind of big decisions in life. And this is probably, for most people, would be the biggest decision they've ever made. So
Oh yeah.
you would want to have, everything figured out before you actually do it. And if you're going to have an exit plan because this person's abusive, you would probably want to have a safe place to go.
Right.
In the situation, if it's an abusive person, physically abusive person, and you've got children in the house and he's the breadwinner, I would say, you probably would need to talk to a lawyer just to see if, is there a way that I could live in this house and he could be removed from the house safely, locks could be changed, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of ins and outs with that kind of it's a complex situation. So I'd say you definitely want to have a lot of advisors and a lot of support going forward in that kind of a move.
That's amazing, Karen. That's such great advice because with the situation with being gaslighting, being gaslit, do you find that if you were constantly being faced with this situation, is it good for them to have someone that they can trust to talk to? Because if it does go down that road, there could be a lot of things said that, well, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. What affair are you talking about? You were the one actually having the affair. You know what I mean? Because it could start going to that. Well, I was looking at your social media and you were liking this and someone kept liking your stuff and you're probably having an affair with them. And you know what I mean? So what can be done to maybe even ahead of time to try to get ahead of this is talking to maybe other people, letting people know what's going on. Because sometimes it could be almost a shameful because you're like, am I going out of my mind? Did that really happen? Do you find that maybe it's helpful to have someone to talk to, or maybe a few people that you're kind of sharing things with so other people know what's going on? What are your thoughts on that? Or is that helpful? Is it not?
Yeah. Even, I mean, there may even be some type of support groups in your area that you could go to, or even online support groups where you can talk things out. Just to kind of, get that. I wouldn't say, you would get advice that you would want to see the professionals for the advice, but excuse me, you would
Right.
want to get bounce those things off other people, hear what they've been through, compare your stories and say, oh yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. So just so that you kind of have a little bit more wind in your sails, I guess, is so that you feel like I can do this, I can move forward. You need encouragement to be strong, to make healthy boundaries happen. And we're not saying that you want to make healthy boundaries so that you completely sever the relationship, but sometimes to start off trying to build a healthy relationship, you need to sever things a certain way, when it might mean, living arrangements need to be separate right now because
Right.
until this person learns and gets it, I can't stay with them.
Wow.
Narcissists that don't want to be separated will promise to behave, make all kinds of promises, but
Oh
then
yeah.
once they're back with the person, they become that same ogre and are
Right.
to live with. So, either way, it's a toss up. It could work out to be for the benefit of the person, and it may not be. But if they do try that, they try separation and then they get back together because a lot of promises were made, but then it still ends up not being good. At least they can say to themselves, I have tried everything.
That's important. Yes.
And
You
nothing's
have
perfect.
closure within yourself to know that
Yes,
I did all I could to make this thing work. We tried
exactly.
counseling, we tried separation, we got back together, then it started up again. There was
Right.
cheating happening, then they started cheating again, even though they said they weren't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually gives you that, and I think we had made mention of it before. It kind of gives you something to kind of keep in your, like, hey, we've done this, we've done this. It's like kind of all the steps in, that you tried to take. Now, as far as when it comes to gaslighting, would you say that maybe journaling, keeping a diary, or if it really starts to get to the point where it's out of hand and you're starting to say, hey, like, I need to make sure that, like, what is happening is really happening, because this person keeps saying that stuff didn't happen, and I know it did, and I know we had these conversations, and I know that these plans were made, but then they said that it didn't happen. Does that help at all? Like, what can you do to, like, maybe for your own peace of mind, to just be able to say, I just need to know for myself, because there's no one else to witness these conversations. Maybe there's no kid around or no other witness or anything to
Mm-hmm.
hear and maybe affirm that, no, you did say that.
Right.
What what
Journaling is a
what are
good.
your ideas
Yeah,
on that?
journaling's a good one. I have some clients that have actually decided to take their iPhone and stick it on the counter when they know that the person is coming home, and just they would put it on audio record, and they would just leave it
Yes.
there for a while. And then, especially if they knew it was routine for this person to come home and be in a kind of an angry mood,
Mm,
common for this, particular one I'm thinking of. And so for them to actually turn it on then, because they always knew that after they would get angry, and then later on when the person that had to hear it all says to them, well, you really hurt my feelings. What are you talking about? Well, you said,
right.
I never said that. So then, oh, well, let me show you something. You did. And then they play it back for them. That will make them angry, but they'll actually have to hear and know that this person isn't going to tolerate being told that they're crazy. So
Right.
sometimes recording, and then, if they decide not to show it to them because they know they don't trust how they're going to react,
Mhm.
at least they know
Oh
for
yeah.
themselves, I'm not crazy.
Exactly. And that's the thing, knowing for yourself, because when you start doubting your own, and that's why I say sometimes the emotional abuse is worse than the physical, because once someone loses their mind or they start to go out of their mind, if you don't have your mind, then what do you have? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because that's what keeps you sane. That's what keeps you to be able to function in the world and to communicate with people. And if you're losing your sanity, you're losing yourself in a way.
The
I
abilities. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. I had someone that I was had a dealing with them, and they were just kind of just going off and everything. And then I would say, you know what, I'm gonna just start recording. Like, I literally just said, I'm gonna start recording. And and it was so funny because the switch in the tone and everything just started to calm down so fast. And it was so interesting because they were getting loud, flying off the handle, like just going off. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, when they knew they were being recorded, they stopped. So that tells me, okay, so you are aware of what you're doing. You know that you're getting loud and you're cursing at me and calling me out my name and all these things. You know
Right.
that. So now that I say I'm going to record what you're saying, and when you say you're going to, what is it, hit or put a dent in my vehicle or do something. So now when I say, oh, you said you were going to put a dent in my, I'm going to start recording now. You really said you're going to put a dent in my vehicle for real? And then you're like, oh my gosh, everything starts to calm down. So it's
Yep.
almost like you have to kind of know the one that you're dealing with to know how far you can go. in that situation, I felt like comfortable to be able to do it, but I'm not recommending that everyone do it, because
Right.
there are some narcissists that do take things to a whole nother level. And especially if you have weapons and things like that, firearms in the house, you do need to be very careful with how
Yeah,
you proceed.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I had a thought when you were talking about that too. A couple of episodes ago, I think it was episode 8, we talked about the
Yes.
Maldonado bottle talk method.
Yes, yes.
That one you could add in there if you felt like the narcissist is going to have a difficult time not keeping it in an honoring tone. You
Right.
could say, and we're going to also record this so that we can come back to it later. Because if it turns out to be good, we can listen to it again and see, what did we do that was so great that made it turn out to be good, where we could come to this good compromise or
Right.
understanding. And then if
Right.
it turns out bad, then at least they'll be able to hear themselves. So there could
Mm.
be, benefit to doing that. So if you haven't listened, everyone, if you haven't listened to episode 8, it's a technique so that you can just go step by step, having a conversation with another person. Doesn't always have to be a narcissist, but if it's a difficult conversation, you may want to
Yes.
try putting on the record button so that you can both listen to it later if need be.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Recording things, it helps to keep it so that, and whoever may have a bad memory, it can help re-jog their memory to have that recording, because it's
Yeah.
what it is. It's set there, and even if you share it with each other, both of you have a copy of it, so you both
Yes.
have that ability to go back and listen. So
Yeah.
I'm just so thankful. Yes, and definitely go back and watch all the episodes, not just episode 8, because it's kind of like an ongoing that you're going to learn and go through the process. Go back to to episode 1 for this season and just kind of listen all throughout.
Yeah.
Make sure you're putting your comments in there, because there are things. What do you feel? Do you feel safe recording a narcissist? Would you be that bold to do it and let them know that you're doing it, or do you do it
Right.
secretly? We want to know, which way would you go? Would you do it secretly? Would you be bold and let them know? I
Yeah.
mean, we want to hear what your thoughts are on this. Definitely, for sure. And then, Karen, we always want to have that final thought as far as for the gaslighting. If that person is just at a place where maybe other people, because you have sometimes people that are being gaslit and other people can see it, but for some reason that person, they are so brainwashed and manipulated and just been gaslit for so long that they don't see it, and there are loved ones, friends, and everyone trying to point out what they see. Maybe one of your sister or your brother or someone sees it, but then you're having a hard time connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
What would you share with that person to help them to come to that realization and maybe get out of the to kind of get out of that funk, of, okay, maybe they are right, maybe this is happening and I need to do something about this. What can you share with a person like that? They're like, I want to
Well,
hear what this is
if
about.
they're if they're still in the duped stage where, like you said, they're brainwashed, it's going to be hard to get them to change their mind. And if they really want this relationship because they think somehow it's going to be beneficial for them to stay in it, it's going to be hard for you to convince them.
Mm.
And they may not open up to you about anything in the future because you are trying to protect them, but they're looking at it that you don't like their person. So yeah,
Oh,
so it is hard. So it would be a tough love kind of a thing for you to be so bold, to be honest and love them that much. But it would be love for you to be honest because you don't want them to get hurt. And so I would just say, try to have a sit down talk, maybe a bottle talk like we talked about,
yeah,
right? Where you say, this is what I'm seeing, and this
yes,
is my feeling about it is I'm concerned because I love you. So I think if you want to approach somebody with bad news, you want to tell them first the good things. And one of the good things is I love you and I care so much for you that I could be
yes,
wrong, but I want you to keep your ears and your eyes open for more signs like this, because if I'm not wrong, I would rather you find out now than before you put a ring on your finger
Ooh.
and now you're in a marriage that you're miserable in, and maybe by then you have children together, and then so I would rather, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, then so be it, I'm sorry that I even brought it up then, but I feel like I would be amiss to not say to you what I'm concerned about that I'm seeing.
Oh, wow. And you just brought up such a great point as far as, the loved one coming in and trying to advocate, in a way that is in a loving way, not saying, well, why can't you see that? Or why, just understand, listeners, that a lot of times they are so blind. They're so in love with this person, they're blind to be able to see what's going on, or maybe there's so many benefits to the relationship that it's not so easily, like, when the person's controlling where they go or what they do all the time, and we go on trips all the time, but they never have a say in where they go. So yeah, they may go on all these extravagant trips, but they have no say in it.
Or tell them what they have to wear, or there's a whole
Right.
gamut of things that they try to control. And so somebody may
Yes.
see it and say, oh, I hate that for her, I hate that for him, and they don't know what to do. So another way you can open up the conversation is say, watch this episode and then
Yes.
let's talk.
Yes.
It could,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Share it, because that's what I always say. Sometimes people, like, they don't want to hear it from you, but if they hear someone else that they don't have any knowledge of, like, they don't know me, I don't know them, they're just talking about a general situation that has affected many people, obviously, right? Because
right,
you wouldn't have a job as a therapist if there weren't so many people with these problems, right? That keeps you in business. Like, it's an unfortunate thing, but it's a needed profession, because
yes,
there are so many people suffering from the narcissistic abuse.
right,
And I just so thankful for, people that are noticing that they're being gaslit and they're looking at us to get help, and then the loved ones that are also watching, that they're like, hey, I want to be able to tell this person, but I just don't know how. So hopefully in this episode you were able to learn some things, and maybe to help the person, the loved one in your life, or even help yourself, so
right.
that you can move forward in a healthy way in your relationship, whether it is to stay or go. We don't make any recommendations either way. We let you pray about it and decide, and seek the Lord and seek guidance of the multitude of counsel, right? So
Yes.
that you can know the best, the best option for you to be safe and happy and healthy, right?
Yes.
So we definitely thank y'all for tuning in. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you think. Tell
Yes.
us, ask us any questions you have. I mean, good or bad, we want to hear it all, right? So
That's
we're
right.
just going to conclude today that this is the Narcissist Asking for a Friend podcast. My name is Tyler. This is Karen. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.